The Palm Bay Women's Correctional Facility looked just like hundreds of prisons scattered across America. Concrete walls, coils of barbed wire, the harsh glare of the Florida sun beating down endlessly, and the ever-present stench of disinfectant that clung to your skin like a second layer after just one day inside. The routine was as rigid as the walls. Wake-up call at 6 a.m., breakfast at 7 o'clock, labor detail from 8 to noon, then lunch, back to work until 4 o'clock, dinner, and a few hours of free time before lights out at 10 o'clock. Day after day, week after week, year after year, the sameness wrapped around the women like chains. Then, on a blistering day in July, something new disrupted the monotony. A fresh arrival stepped into that stale world. Alina Carter, age 29, recently transferred from a women's facility in Alabama to serve out the remainder of her sentence. 7 years for large-scale fraud. She didn't look like most inmates. Tall and lean, with sharp cheekbones, jet black hair tied into a severe ponytail, and deep brown eyes that seemed to strip the truth from people without a word. "This'll be your cell for the next 7 years," said Gar Johnson, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s whose leathery face looked carved out of a dried apple. She motioned toward a cramped room with 2 metal bunk beds. "Your cellmate's Lopez. Bedding comes in an hour. Stick to the rules, and maybe you'll make it to the end." Alina nodded once, walked in, and dropped a small, worn bag onto the lower bunk. "Top bunk," a voice called out casually. In the far corner stood a Latino woman with long hair twisted into a messy braid. "Maria Lopez," she said, arms folded, giving the new girl a long, slow once-over. "Alina Carter," she replied, moving her bag to the upper bed. "From Alabama." Maria raised an eyebrow. "Alabama, huh? What did you do to land here in this 5-star resort?" Alina said nothing at first. She arranged her few belongings slowly, deliberately, taking in her new environment. "Let's just say I had a disagreement with the administration back there." Maria smirked. "Fair enough. Me? I was a nurse. Got caught pushing painkillers on the side. 3 years down, 2 to go." Alina gave a subtle nod. "That could be useful." A former nurse was always a good person to know. In the days that followed, Alina quickly acclimated to the rhythms of the prison. She learned the unwritten rules, who to avoid, and who wielded real power. Warden Robert Higgins had a reputation for being firm, but just. The library was one of the few areas with minimal supervision. And the most feared individual inside Palm Bay? It wasn't an inmate. It was Deputy Warden Davidson, a man known more for cruelty than order, unpredictable and cold. 5 days in, Alina was summoned to the warden's office. "Prisoner Carter, sir, as requested," the escorting guard announced as they stepped into the administrative wing. Higgins, a 44-year-old man of average height and athletic build, looked up from a thick file. His sharp gray eyes and graying temples matched the air of authority he projected. Behind him sat a large wooden desk, atop which sat a family photo, Higgins with a woman and 2 teens. "Take a seat, Miss Carter," he said, not yet meeting her gaze. "I've been reviewing your file." "Interesting story," Warden Higgins murmured, glancing at the file. Alina Carter sat down gracefully, back straight, expression composed. Her eyes moved with quiet efficiency, scanning the office. Diplomas hung on the paneled walls, a locked safe tucked in the corner, and a desk calendar cluttered with handwritten notes. "What exactly do you find interesting, Mr. Higgins?" she asked evenly, her voice calm but deliberate. Higgins finally looked up. Their eyes met, and for a split second, he seemed caught off guard, not by her presence, but by her confidence. Her question, direct and self-assured, wasn't what he expected from a new inmate. "Well," he began, flipping another page, "the fact that someone with your education and, judging by appearances, certain aptitudes, chose a path of criminal activity. Bank fraud, identity theft, forgery." He raised an eyebrow. "Quite the resume for a young woman." "Life doesn't always offer many doors, Mr. Higgins," Alina replied without breaking eye contact. "Especially when you grow up in a dead-end Alabama town, full of big dreams and empty streets." Higgins gave a slight nod, as if he understood. "Your file also mentions some disciplinary concerns at your previous facility." conflicts with staff, attempts at manipulation. He let the word hang in the air before continuing. Let me be clear, Miss Carter. That kind of behavior won't be tolerated here. Palm Bay runs on order. You break the rules, you pay the price. I understand, sir, Alina said smoothly. She allowed herself a faint smile. My only goal is to complete my sentence quietly. No complications. He studied her carefully now, his eyes searching for cracks in her polished surface. Professionally, he remained composed, but Alina, having dealt with enough powerful men, recognized the flicker of something more personal. It was faint but familiar. I see you worked in a library at your last facility, he said after a pause. Coincidentally, we have a vacancy here. It's considered a privileged assignment, quiet, comfortable, a bit more freedom. But it comes with expectations, responsibility, discipline, perfect conduct. I'd be grateful for the opportunity, Alina replied. I've always loved books, and I'm well organized when it comes to cataloging. Higgins nodded, scribbling a quick note in her file. You'll start next week. In the meantime, a full medical exam is required for all new arrivals. Dr. Wilson will see you this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Higgins, Alina said, rising as he closed the folder. I won't disappoint you. Back in her cell, Maria was lounging on her bunk, flipping through a tattered romance novel. So, how'd it go with the big boss? She asked without glancing up. Productive, Alina said, settling onto her own bunk. I've been assigned to the library. Maria let out a low whistle. Well, that didn't take long. The library's not a bad gig. It's quiet, air-conditioned, and far from the drama. Alina leaned in slightly. You've been here a while, Maria. What's the deal with Higgins? What kind of man is he? Maria closed her book and lowered her voice. He runs a tight ship, no doubt. Not the worst we've seen, but she hesitated, then gave a quick glance toward the door. He has weaknesses. Let's just say he pays extra attention to certain inmates. Alina gave a knowing nod. That was exactly the kind of intel she was hoping for. That afternoon, she was escorted to the infirmary. Dr. James Wilson, in his early 50s with thinning hair and tired, compassionate eyes, greeted her in a room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and old paper. Miss Carter, he said kindly, motioning to a medical couch. Welcome to Palm Bay. Please have a seat. We need to conduct a standard medical exam and review your history, Dr. Wilson said gently. Alina sat down, eyes steady, as he flipped through her medical file. I see you've been on antiretroviral therapy, he said, pausing to meet her gaze. According to this, for 5 years. Yes, doctor, Alina replied calmly. I'm fully aware of my condition and the treatment it requires. Dr. Wilson nodded and began scribbling notes. Your blood counts from the previous facility look stable. That's excellent news. We'll keep you on the same treatment regimen. But you know how critical it is, no missed doses. I understand, Alina said, meeting his eyes directly. I never skip. There was a short silence. Then Alina asked, May I ask, who else will know about my diagnosis? The doctor set down his pen. Patient confidentiality applies here, just as it does anywhere else, Miss Carter. Your information is only shared with me and the medical staff involved in your care. The administration has access to your file, but they typically don't delve into medical specifics unless absolutely necessary. Alina nodded slowly. That was a crucial detail. Whether or not Warden Higgins knew about her HIV status depended on how deep he dug into her records. Thank you for your honesty, doctor. I appreciate your discretion. Later, back in her cell, Alina replayed everything in her mind. Dr. Wilson's transparency, the guarded professionalism, and most of all, the realization that Higgins might be vulnerable. He had power, a family, a reputation to protect. And to Alina, he was the personification of the system that had ruined her. 5 years ago, her life had splintered in two, before and after. Once, she'd been a hopeful, hardworking girl from a quiet Alabama town. She dreamed of becoming a lawyer, studying hard, waiting tables, saving every cent toward that future. Everything shifted the night James Rodriguez, a local deputy, insisted on driving her home from her shift. She declined. He insisted. That insistence became something far darker on a deserted backroad. 3 months later, she tested positive for HIV. When she tried to report him, the system turned against her. Rodriguez had friends in high places. She was labeled a liar, a bartender with a history, and threatened with defamation charges. College? Gone. Career? Over. The future? Erased. What remained was rage and a hunger for justice. She started small, petty scams that grew into complex frauds. She didn't just steal, she targeted corrupt officers, abusive officials, men who believed they were untouchable. She exposed their weaknesses and unraveled their lives. Now, in prison, she had a new mission. That evening, while most of the inmates crowded the common room watching TV, Alina sat with Maria in their dimly lit cell, speaking in hushed tones. "You said you were a nurse," Alina began, her tone casual but focused. "What kind of nurse?" "Infectious disease," Maria replied, setting her book aside. "I worked at Tampa City Hospital 3 years before I got caught selling pills." Alina's gaze sharpened. "So, you know a lot about infections?" Maria frowned. "Why are you asking?" Alina leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Because I need someone I can trust. Someone with medical knowledge, and without inconvenient moral boundaries." Maria narrowed her eyes. "That sounds dangerous." Her words were cautious, but her expression betrayed something deeper. Curiosity. "What are you planning, Alina?" Alina held her gaze, silent for a long beat, weighing her next move. "I have HIV, she finally said. "I didn't choose it. A man gave it to me, a man protected by his badge and his status. He walked free. I lost everything. My future, my career, my life. Now, I want someone else to know what that feels like." Maria blinked, visibly shaken. "You're talking about infecting someone on purpose? That's criminal." "I'm already in prison," Alina said coldly. "And this isn't about crime. It's about justice. I've chosen my target very carefully." "Higgins," Maria whispered, her face draining of color. "You're going after the warden." Alina nodded. "He's ideal. A family man. Respected. Powerful. He's the very image of the system that broke me. And, according to you, he has a weakness for certain inmates." Maria shook her head slowly. "This is insane. Even if you seduce him, do you think he'll let you live afterward? You'd be a walking threat to his entire life." "I don't intend to survive," Alina replied, her voice steady and cold. "My death will be the start of his downfall. That's why I need someone I can trust. Someone to finish what I start. Someone to pass the evidence to the right hands." Maria fell silent, absorbing the weight of what Alina had just laid bare. After a long pause, she asked, "Why should I help you?" "Helping could add years to my sentence." "Because you're the only one here who understands what I'm doing," Alina said, leaning in. "And because I can help you get out early. I have connections. Real ones. Outside. And I have leverage." She lowered her voice even more. "And don't you want to see a man like Higgins finally lose everything? After what he's done to women in here?" Maria looked at her closely. "What about the man from Alabama? The one who started all this?" "He'll pay, too," Alina said, her voice burning with quiet fury. "Some of the evidence I'll leave behind points to him. 2 men. 1 plan." Outside the cell, the prison hummed with distant voices, laughter, and the buzz of a television. Life went on, unaware of the storm quietly forming within these walls. Finally, Maria exhaled. "All right," she said. "I'll help. Not for your promises, but because I've seen what Higgins does to the women here, how he uses them, then buries them in solitary or transfers them like trash. Someone needs to stop him." Alina extended her hand. "So we're partners." Maria hesitated. Then, slowly she took the hand. "Partners," she said, "but we need a real plan." "I have one," Alina said, allowing herself a faint smile. "And it starts in the library. Next Monday." The library at Palm Bay Women's Correctional Facility was a small, air-conditioned refuge lined with aging metal shelves and worn-out paperbacks. It was the only quiet sanctuary in the entire prison. Alina settled in quickly, transforming the space with a sense of order. She reorganized the catalog system, implemented a new book tracking method, and cleaned the cluttered shelves with the precision of someone who cared. Her diligence didn't go unnoticed. "Miss Carter, I'm impressed," came a voice from the doorway. It was Robert Higgins, smiling. "Officer Johnson says you've completely turned this place around." Alina looked up from the book she was cataloging and offered a polite, measured smile. "Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I just love order." The warden strolled casually between the rows of metal shelves, running his fingers lightly along the spines of worn books. "What did you read before?" he asked, pausing. "Before you ended up here?" "Mostly law books," Alina replied, carefully sliding catalog cards back into their drawer. "I once dreamed of becoming a lawyer." "What happened?" His tone was curious, genuinely curious, not administrative. Alina hesitated, weighing how much to reveal. "Life happened, Mr. Higgins. Sometimes it rewrites our plans in ways we never expect." Their eyes locked. For a moment, it wasn't sympathy that passed between them. It was recognition. Two people who understood what it meant to see their futures crumble. "You're right," he said softly. "Life rarely follows the script we write." From that day forward, Higgins began frequenting the library more often. At first, his visits were short and formal, checking the inventory, discussing new acquisitions. But over time, they grew longer and more personal. He asked about her past, her favorite authors. He shared fragments of his own life, his disillusionment with his career, the distance in his marriage. Alina listened with intent focus, gently steering the conversations, crafting the illusion of emotional closeness. He felt seen, understood, important. "You're taming him like a wild animal," Maria commented one evening in their cell, closing the book she'd been pretending to read. Little by little, every day, he's in that library for hours now, forgetting he even runs the place. Alina lay on her bunk, eyes tracing the cracks in the ceiling. "That's how you tame something dangerous," she said quietly. Slowly, carefully. "You make it feel safe." Maria's tone darkened. "But what happens when that animal realizes it's been tricked?" "Higgins won't take betrayal lightly. By then, it'll be too late." Alina answered, her voice ice cold. "He's already vulnerable, bored with his marriage, disillusioned with his authority. He's looking for something that makes him feel alive again. I'm giving it to him, for now." Maria narrowed her eyes. "And Dr. Wilson? He's been watching you too. I saw it at dinner. He knows something's off." Alina sighed. That was a problem she hadn't solved yet. During her medical checkups, Wilson's questions had become more pointed, his demeanor more concerned. "He's bound by confidentiality," she said at last. "He can't act directly. But you're right, he's watching. We'll need to be careful." The next morning, while shelving books, Alina spotted Dr. Wilson heading her way. She braced herself but kept her expression serene. "Miss Carter," he said softly, glancing over his shoulder to ensure privacy. "May I speak with you?" "Of course, doctor," she replied, setting her book down. "Is something wrong with my test results?" "No," he said, clearly uneasy. "Your test results are fine. But I've noticed the amount of time you've been spending with Mr. Higgins." Alina stayed calm. "He's interested in the library. It's part of his job." Wilson lowered his voice. "Miss Carter, I know about your diagnosis, and I've seen how close you and the warden are becoming. I must remind you of your responsibilities." Alina raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Wilson, are you concerned about your patient or about your boss?" Her tone sharpened. "Because if you're making assumptions about the nature of my relationship with Mr. Higgins, I suggest you reconsider. What exactly is it that concerns you, doctor?" Alina asked, her voice cold and unwavering. "That a prisoner with HIV might be involved with a respected member of society? Or that the warden might be abusing his position?" Dr. Wilson didn't answer immediately. He took a breath, clearly trying to balance his concern with professionalism. "I care about everyone's well-being, Miss Carter. That includes yours." "My health is under control," she said sharply. "I take my medication and undergo regular checkups. As for anything else, my relationship with Mr. Higgins, or with anyone for that matter, that falls far outside your medical responsibilities." Wilson hesitated. His expression showed the weight of an internal struggle. "I can't stop you," he said finally, "but I urge you to consider the consequences for everyone involved." After he left, Alina let her mask fall for just a moment. A flicker of anxiety crossed her face. Wilson was a threat, an inconvenient one. While patient confidentiality kept him from direct action, his growing suspicions meant time was no longer on her side. She had to accelerate the plan. That evening, as she left the library, a guard intercepted her. "Carter, the warden wants to see you." Now, inside Higgins's office, the atmosphere was different, tense, strained. He didn't greet her. He didn't smile. "Close the door, Miss Carter," he said without looking up. Alina complied silently, already bracing for what was coming. "Dr. Wilson came to see me today," Higgins began, confirming her fear. "He had some interesting things to say." She said nothing. "He's concerned about how much time I've been spending in the library. He thinks it could be misinterpreted." Higgins finally looked up, his eyes locking on hers. "What do you make of that? What did you tell him?" Alina asked, her voice even. "I told him I'm the warden of this prison, and I decide how I spend my working hours," Higgins replied, standing and slowly moving toward her. "But he made me think about what's happening between us." "And what is happening between us, Mr. Higgins?" Alina asked, her tone softening, turning intimate. He was standing close now, too close. She could feel his breath. "Something that shouldn't be," he said quietly. "Something dangerous." "Sometimes danger is the only thing that makes us feel alive," she replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Isn't that why you come to the library every day? To feel alive?" For a long moment, the tension between them crackled. Then, Higgins crossed the line she had been leading him toward all along. He kissed her. After that night, their meetings became frequent, secret, and intense. Higgins would summon her to his office after hours or linger in the locked library long after closing. What began as emotional dependency quickly escalated into physical intimacy. Dr. Wilson watched from the periphery, horrified by what he suspected but couldn't prove. During Alina's next medical checkup, he made one final attempt. "Miss Carter," he said carefully, "I must remind you, what you're doing could be seen as intentional transmission. That's a serious offense." Alina blinked, feigning innocence. "Doctor, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not infecting anyone. I'm not blind," he said with urgency. "I know what's going on with you and Higgins, and I know about your diagnosis." She smiled slightly, her voice calm and lethal. "And yet, there's nothing you can do. Doctor-patient confidentiality, remember? You have no evidence, only assumptions. I could warn him about the risks without naming you," Wilson offered. "That would still violate confidentiality," Alina interrupted sharply. "And if you do, I'll file a formal complaint. You'll lose your license. Is it worth it?" Wilson stared at her, fear and disbelief mingling in his eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "We all have our own version of justice, Doctor," Alina replied quietly. "This is mine. Mine just looks different from yours," Alina had said earlier that day. That evening, back in their cell, Maria noticed something had shifted. "You look happy," she said cautiously. "Something happened." Alina's eyes glinted as she sat on her cot. "The plan's moving along even better than I expected. Dr. Wilson tried to get in the way, but his hands are tied. And Higgins? He's under my control completely." Maria hesitated. "You already?" "Yes," Alina answered, cutting her off. "And not just once." Maria's face paled. "So now we wait." Alina nodded. "We wait for the virus to settle in his body. And then comes the final act." "And how do you plan on telling him?" Maria whispered. "How do you make him realize?" "Carefully," Alina replied, lowering her voice. "I'll start with subtle hints, then move to undeniable facts. He'll understand that he's trapped, just like I once was. That his life, his reputation, everything he built is crumbling. And if he snaps?" Maria's voice trembled. "What if he kills you?" Alina didn't flinch. "He might try, but by then, I'll have all the evidence ready. Even if I die, he won't survive the fallout. And you know where I've hidden it." 2 more weeks passed. Alina bided her time, reading Higgins like a map. His emotional dependency deepened. He confided in her regularly. Complaints about his failing marriage, his fading career, his growing sense of being invisible. She was everything he thought he needed, attentive, understanding, validating. Then she struck. Late one evening, in his office after hours, Higgins locked the door. They made love on his desk, reckless, raw, as if chasing something they'd both already lost. For him, it was the last time. He just didn't know it yet. As they lay together, skin against skin, Alina finally spoke. "You know, Robert," she began gently, "I never told you the real reason I ended up in prison." He smiled, half awake. "You said it was for fraud." "That's what the record says," she replied. "But the truth goes deeper. I was trying to get revenge on the man who ruined my life." Higgins turned his head, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" "There was a man," Alina said, her voice steady. "Back in Alabama. Someone in power. He raped me. And when I tried to press charges, he used his influence to silence me, to destroy my credibility." She paused. "But that wasn't the worst of it. I found out later, he gave me HIV. Higgins sat up fast, color draining from his face. "What? I've been positive for 5 years, she continued, locking eyes with him. "Dr. Wilson knows. It's in my medical file. You'd have known too, if you'd bothered to read it." Higgins scrambled to his feet, frantically dressing. "No, that's not possible. You're lying. Check my records," Alina said calmly. "Or better yet, get tested. Though I'm afraid it's already too late." She tilted her head. "We never use protection. What was it, 10 times? 15. His mouth opened, but no words came. Just a breathless, horrified gasp. "You did this on purpose." Alina stood, slowly, her expression calm. "Yes, Robert. I infected you intentionally. The same way someone once did to me. Now you know what it feels like to have your life stolen in a single moment. To watch your future evaporate." With a roar, Higgins lunged, his hands clamping around her throat. "I'll kill you," he shouted. Alina didn't resist. Her voice was raspy but firm. "Maybe you will. But think what happens next. Your wife, your children, your boss, the media. A prison warden infected with HIV by an inmate during a secret affair." His grip loosened. "I have proof," she continued. "Letters. Notes. Things only you and I can know. If I disappear, someone else will release it." Higgins stumbled back, face contorted in panic and despair. And Alina simply stood there, victorious in silence. "What do you want?" Higgins asked, his voice hollow. "Nothing," Alina replied as she began getting dressed. "I already got what I came for, justice." The next morning, Warden Higgins didn't report to work. His deputy announced that he'd taken personal leave. But Alina didn't need an explanation. She knew exactly where he was, panic-stricken, sitting in a clinic somewhere, waiting for test results. She waited too, calm and composed, working in the library as if nothing had changed. On the outside, she was the model inmate. But inside, she was quietly watching the fallout unfold. 3 days later, Higgins returned. His appearance told Alina everything before he even opened his mouth. He looked drained, dark circles under his eyes, skin pale and sallow. He summoned her to his office. "I got the results," he said in a dull, broken tone. "They're positive." Alina gave a slow, measured nod, eyes locked on his face. "You've ruined my life," he whispered. "My marriage, my career, my health. It's all gone." "Now you know," she replied coldly. "Now you understand what it's like to have someone take everything from you. To live each day knowing your future was stolen, and there's no getting it back." His expression crumbled into something between despair and defeat. "What do you want from me? Money? An early release?" "I already told you, Robert," Alina said, her voice sharp. "I don't want anything. My revenge is done." Higgins stared at her, eyes filled with loathing and fear. "You won't walk out of here alive," he said at last, voice low and venomous. "You realize that, don't you?" "I've always known that," Alina answered calmly. "The only question is how many people you're willing to go down with." Her tone sharpened. "Kill me, and the evidence goes public. Your wife, your children, your boss, they'll all find out. And not just about us. There's more. Evidence about the man who infected me, about how the system protected him. It'll all come out. 2 lives destroyed, not just one." Higgins dropped into his chair, hands trembling. "You're a monster." "No," she said, rising to leave. "I'm what you made me. What the system made me." When she stepped out of his office, Alina knew the next move was his, and it would be desperate. A man cornered, with everything to lose, is the most dangerous kind. Higgins vanished again for 3 days. The official excuse was family leave, but Alina knew better. She waited, prepared. Every morning she woke up in her cell, wondering, will it be today or tomorrow? On the 4th day, he returned. From the library window, Alina spotted him walking the corridor. He looked like a ghost of the man he used to be, gaunt, twitchy, eyes rimmed red. He didn't even glance her way, but she could feel the seething energy radiating off him like heat. "Welcome back, Mr. Higgins," a guard greeted. "Everything all right with your family?" "Yes, thank you," he snapped, not slowing his pace. That evening, Alina relayed the update to Maria. "He's back. Looks like he hasn't slept in days." Maria's eyes darkened. "Do you realize that any day now could be your last?" "I've always known that," Alina said softly. "From the very beginning. You're really willing to die for this?" Alina didn't answer right away. She stared at the cell wall, eyes distant. 5 years ago, when I got my diagnosis, my life ended. All I have left now is the chance to make things right, even if it kills me. Maria hesitated, then asked quietly, "Are you sure I can do my part?" "Everything's ready," Alina whispered, leaning closer. "The package is hidden where I told you. If I die, retrieve it and deliver it to the address I gave you." "Alina, what if I get caught? What if something goes wrong?" "Then it'll all be for nothing," she replied with a shrug. "But if it works, it'll bring everything down." "But I believe in you, Maria," Alina said softly. "You're the only one I can trust." That night, sleep wouldn't come. Alina lay awake in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, haunted not by fear, but by memory. She replayed the steps that led her here, the choices, the betrayals, and that one night in Alabama that had shattered everything. She didn't feel regret, only the sharp resolve to see her plan through, no matter the cost. The following morning, she reported for her scheduled checkup with Dr. Wilson. He greeted her with visible concern. Once the nurse stepped out, he wasted no time. "Miss Carter," he began in a low, tense voice, "I need to ask you something, clearly and directly. Did you tell Warden Higgins about your HIV status?" Alina studied him, her expression unreadable. "Why do you ask?" "Because he came to see me 3 days ago," Wilson said, adjusting his glasses nervously. He was panicked, insisting on reviewing your records and demanding to be tested immediately. Alina nodded slowly. "And you showed him my file?" "He's the warden," Wilson said, his voice tinged with guilt. "He has authorized access. But I disguised the test as part of a routine physical. The result came back positive." "I know," Alina replied quietly. Wilson leaned forward. "You understand how dangerous he is now? He's lost everything. His image, his family, his future. That kind of man is unpredictable." "I know the risk," she said firmly, "and I accept it. I could request a transfer," Wilson offered sincerely. "Claim it's for specialized medical treatment. Get you to another facility." Alina shook her head. "It's too late for that, doctor. But I appreciate your concern." That evening, as inmates returned from dinner, a young, anxious guard approached her. His hands were trembling, and he avoided eye contact. "Carter," he said, voice shaky. "The warden wants to see you. Now." Maria, standing nearby, tensed. "Now? It's nearly lights out." "Orders from the top," the guard muttered. "Let's go." Alina gave Maria a final glance, a silent goodbye that also said, "You know what to do." "It'll be okay," she whispered, though both women knew that was unlikely. But something was off. The guard didn't take the usual route toward the administrative wing. Instead, he led Alina down a rarely used service corridor, dark, narrow, and unmonitored. Still, Alina walked calmly, as if none of it surprised her. "Where are we going?" she asked as they passed another deserted hallway. "Keep moving," the guard barked, but his voice trembled. They stopped at a door leading into the back rooms, usually reserved for janitorial storage. The guard checked the hallway, opened the door, and ushered her inside quickly. The room was dimly lit by a single overhead bulb. Inside stood Robert Higgins, gaunt and hollow-eyed. Beside him was his deputy, Mr. Davidson, a man feared by both staff and inmates alike for his ruthlessness. "Leave us," Higgins told the guard. The guard didn't hesitate. He bolted, closing the door behind him with a quiet, relieved click. Alina scanned the room. Dirty mops, old buckets, shelves stacked with cleaning supplies. A forgotten place, perfect for something that wasn't meant to be seen. "You've chosen a dramatic setting, Mr. Higgins," she said, her voice even. "Shut your mouth," Davidson snapped, stepping forward, rage distorting his features. "You have no idea what kind of mess you've made." Higgins raised a hand. "Let her speak," he said darkly. "I want to hear what she has to say before she dies." Alina smiled faintly, almost amused. "So, this is how it ends. You're going to kill me in a storage closet?" Alina scoffed. "How cliché." Higgins stepped closer. His voice was low, almost steady, but his eyes burned with unhinged rage. "You have a choice," he said. "Tell me where the evidence is, and we'll make it quick." "Or what?" Alina cut in. "You'll torture me? Here? In a prison full of surveillance and staff?" "No one will question it," Davidson said darkly, stepping forward. "No one looks twice when an inmate with a terminal diagnosis hangs herself. It happens all the time." "So, the official cause is suicide," Alina said, voice thick with sarcasm. "How original. Where is it?" Higgins growled. "The evidence. Tell me now." "In a safe place," Alina replied calmly. "One you'll never find. And if I die, it'll be delivered within a week to people very interested in your story." "You're bluffing," Davidson snarled. "Let's end this." But Higgins held back, eyes locked on Alina, the fury now mixed with despair. "You ruined my life," he whispered. "My wife took the kids and left the day I told her. My career's in ashes. What else do you want?" "Justice," Alina replied, voice cold and steady. "You lost what I lost 5 years ago. And the man from Alabama? He's next." Higgins blinked. "Who?" "The man who infected me. The one who raped me and got away because of his badge and connections. My evidence includes him, too. This isn't just about you, Robert. It's about all of you." "Enough of this crap," Davidson growled, pulling a rope from his coat. "Hold her." Higgins hesitated, but then, like a man slipping into autopilot, grabbed Alina's arms. She didn't struggle. She looked straight ahead. When Davidson looped the rope around her neck, she leaned slightly forward and whispered to Higgins, "This isn't the end, Robert. It's the beginning." Early the next morning, Alina Carter was found hanging in her cell. The official report released by the prison stated the cause of death as suicide, brought on by depression and the recent revelation of her HIV diagnosis. She had, according to the document, used a bedsheet tied to the window bars. Maria Lopez, her cellmate, was among the first to see the body. Her screams echoed through the block as she fought the guards who pulled her away from the cell. But by noon, she was eerily calm, as though a weight had lifted. She was sent to the prison psychologist, who noted her unusual composure following such a traumatic discovery. It raised questions, but not enough to stop what came next. 2 days after Alina's death, a package arrived at the office of Detective Samantha Brooks, lead investigator with the Palm Bay Major Crimes Unit. Inside was a thick manila envelope containing photographs, documents, and a flash drive. Detective Brooks, a sharp-minded 38-year-old known for her integrity and relentless pursuit of the truth, sat back as she sifted through the contents. It was all there. Alina Carter's diary, chronicling her relationship with Warden Robert Higgins. Candid photos of the two in intimate settings, in the library, in his office. Audio recordings captured with a homemade device, documenting their conversations. And most shocking of all, a final letter. In it, Alina confessed her deliberate infection of Higgins, detailed his abuse of power, and explained her calculated plan leading up to her own death. The last line read, "When you read this, I will be dead. Don't let them bury the truth." Detective Brooks stared at the page, then whispered, "What the hell?" She pushed the envelope aside and picked up the phone. Within hours, the district attorney was notified and an official investigation was launched. Her first move, a visit to Palm Bay Women's Correctional Facility, under the guise of a routine inspection. But Samantha Brooks wasn't there to inspect. She was there to bring the truth to light. Detective Samantha Brooks requested a meeting with Warden Robert Higgins, but was informed he was on indefinite medical leave. In his place, she was met by Deputy Warden Davidson, whose discomfort was evident the moment she introduced herself. "We're investigating the death of inmate Alina Carter," Samantha said, her eyes fixed on him, reading every twitch. "I need to speak with her former cellmate, Maria Lopez." "The coroner has already ruled it a suicide," Davidson responded quickly. "Miss Carter was recently diagnosed with HIV, a tragic but unsurprising case of depression." "And yet," Samantha said, offering a cold, measured smile, "I'd still like to speak with Miss Lopez alone." In the sterile gray walls of the prison interrogation room, Maria Lopez sat quietly across from her. Her face was blank, unreadable. That changed the moment Samantha pulled out the thick envelope of evidence. Maria's eyes widened slightly. Recognition flashed. "Do you know what's inside these documents, Miss Lopez?" Samantha asked. "No," Maria said softly, "but I know who sent them." "And who would that be?" "Me," Maria replied, her voice steady. "At Alina's request." Over the next hour, Maria laid bare everything she knew. Alina's calculated relationship with Higgins, her plan to deliberately infect him, her certainty that he would eventually kill her, and the evidence she prepared in advance. She provoked him into murdering her? Samantha asked, stunned. "She called it closing the circle," Maria said. Alina believed she had no future. The only thing left was justice, for herself and for others like her. "And you helped her carry this out?" Maria's eyes didn't waver. "She trusted me. And yes, I believe she had every right. You don't know what they did to her." The investigation quickly gathered momentum. Samantha secured a warrant to exhume Alina Carter's body. A second autopsy contradicted the suicide ruling. There were clear signs of manual strangulation, marks on the throat, and trauma inconsistent with hanging. An arrest warrant for Robert Higgins was issued. But Higgins had vanished, fleeing his home the day before. Left behind were traces of desperation and a broken family. Under pressure, Davidson cracked. Confronted with physical evidence and timelines that unraveled his story, he confessed. In graphic detail, he described what had happened in the maintenance room the night Alina died. But the investigation didn't stop there. Using information uncovered in Alina's records, Samantha reopened an old lead, Deputy Sheriff James Rodriguez of Alabama. The man Alina claimed had raped and infected her. Digging deeper, Samantha uncovered a disturbing pattern. Other women came forward, victims whose cases had been buried, dismissed, or silenced. The evidence pointed to a history of misconduct covered up by Rodriguez's powerful connections. 3 weeks later, Robert Higgins was tracked down to a rundown motel on the outskirts of Miami. He didn't resist arrest. Pale and gaunt, he simply muttered to the officers, "She won anyway." The subsequent trial riveted the nation. The story of Alina Carter, a woman who seduced and infected a prison warden with HIV in a calculated act of revenge, then orchestrated her own murder to expose him, sparked intense debate around justice, ethics, and the failures of the prison system. Robert Higgins was sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder and abuse of authority. Davidson received 20 years for his role in the cover-up and the killing. James Rodriguez was finally arrested and charged with rape, intentional infection, and abuse of power. He now faced a reckoning long overdue. And Dr. James Wilson, the prison physician, stood in court to testify, his voice steady, as he recalled his attempts to intervene. Too late to save Alina Carter, but not too late to uncover the truth. He resigned from public life and dedicated himself to serving HIV-positive patients at a clinic for the underprivileged. Maria Lopez received a reduced sentence due to her cooperation with the investigation. Following her release, she gave several interviews detailing her friendship with Alina and her involvement in the events, then quietly disappeared from the spotlight. Detective Samantha Brooks was promoted for her role in uncovering the case, but the experience left a lasting scar. In a private conversation with a colleague, she confessed, "I still don't know who the real victim was. Everyone suffered from a system that consistently fails to protect the vulnerable." Alina Carter's death triggered a nationwide investigation into conditions in women's prisons. New policies were implemented to restrict inappropriate relationships between staff and inmates. Protections for HIV-positive prisoners were strengthened, and reporting channels for abuse of power were expanded and enforced. On the edge of Palm Bay, in a quiet cemetery, Alina Carter was laid to rest. Her grave was marked with a plain headstone, placed by an anonymous benefactor. No dates, no flowers, just a single inscription carved into the stone. Justice has been served.